common sense of success is what media tells us, right? What you see on TV, movies, and newspapers and stuff like that. That if you're successful, you have to have nice cars, nice house, a high-paying job, or big title, whatever. That's not really success. That is what a lot of people chase after, but it's not really success. A lot of people chase them because they think if they have those things, even family, they think if you are successful in the common people's sense, you will be happy, right? But that actually is not. That won't make you happy. A lot of millionaires, whatever celebrities, they're not happy. They have the same depression issue, anxiety issue like the rest of us, because success and numbers, they really just don't bring you happiness. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of the values that some of the traditional cultures we have here is backwards. You're successful as long as you're happy with what you do, right? Like, you can be homeless and just do whatever you enjoy and you're happy every day, then you're more successful than the miserable billionaire. You know what I mean? So yeah, don't let their value get into your head. I know they want the best for you, but some of the values are just not true, you know? Like, I made a decision and one of them goes, what you did wrong is a bad sign. Oh no. And then I said, a bad sign to who? Yeah, that's really subjective, right? How do they get to determine what's good or bad? Then they go, that's why you're not successful, because you don't pray. Oh my God. Yeah, are they successful? Now I'm curious, what does your uncles and aunt do that make them think they're so successful that they get to tell other people's kids, you know, how messed up they are? I really hate this type of thing. Like, people just calling kids, you know, you're not successful, or calling you a loser. Like, what do they know? If you just remain calm, I think sometimes they want to feel powerful, right? It's not a conscious thing. It's not like they want to hurt you. But some parents or older generation, they might have some problem in their own life, and then they want to feel like they're in control of other people, you know? They want to be like the big guy that knows everything. So sometimes they talk down to people to feel better. And if they get a reaction out of you, like Lucifer said, yeah, that might enable their behavior. But if you just stay calm or not affected, that actually annoy them more. I was calm throughout, and they start raising the voice. Yeah, I think that just says there's some problem with them. Oh, if it comes too much, just say that you gotta have to do something. Yeah, definitely. Don't stay in that situation. Listen to them yelling at you, you know? Especially they're not even your parents. I just don't want to deal with that anymore. Every time they ask for help, I always say yes, but it always leads to that. Oh my God, what do they ask you to help with? It's funny that they ask you for help on things, and then they tell you you're not successful and you're making all the wrong decisions. That's so toxic. Always lead to an argument and then belittling everything I do, every plan I make. I really think a lot of parents like that, they do that, you know? Aunts and uncles, I think, to be honest, they might went through the same thing as a kid, you know? Just understand that they're doing this because they don't know better, right? Think of them as kids or animals. They don't know better. So try not to take it too personally. I know how hurtful it is, but try not to take it too personally. Just think of them like that's how they were treated their entire life. They don't know how to show concern or support. You know, that's the only way they know is to nag, right? I think it's just like human nature to compare yourself and others to yourself and others. Yeah, that's very true. So sometimes we'll have to fight the nature, right? If it's hurting you. Yeah, life is full of judging eyes. What matters is just what we think about ourselves. Yeah, that's very true. I have to say, it took me years to not to care about what other people think, right? I'm in my 30s now. But when I was younger, even in my 20s, especially as a teenager, I care a lot about what other people think, what my family think of me, what my peers think of me, you know, like it takes many years to not to actually give a damn about what other people think, right? Even family, they can want the best for me, but I know what I want. So now I'm a much happier person, just saying. Like, we don't gain nothing from this either, but by judging them. Yeah, I know. So we shouldn't, I mean, I wouldn't say we're judging them, but I think I'm trying to give a more realistic view, right? Because when your family are calling you unsuccessful and saying a bunch of toxic thing to you, long term, it can really cause some damage, right? It can really cause people to become depressed because we already question ourselves, right? And if your family constantly tell you that you're a failure or how can't you make the right decision, long term it can really mess up with the way you think, and you might start thinking in an unhealthy way that leads to more problem, right? I'm basically trying to stop him or her thinking that way, which will be worse for himself or herself, you know what I mean? Because we do need to respect our family and their opinion, but if they're constantly toxic to us and make us question our own self-worth, right? We have to challenge that. We can still respect them as the elderly, but we have to challenge their opinions, right? Because it doesn't mean, just because they're older doesn't mean they have all the answers, right? Only you know your life. I try to keep an open mind about maybe they don't know any better and they were raised like that and went through it. They always say that to me. We know because we've been through it already. That's what every single older Asian family would say. But that's just not true. There's a lot of old saying that they're all kind of, I've never seen any culture that have such similarities of the older generations than Asian. Like, the elderly, they really have the same mindset and the same way of educating kids. Exact same phrase. Oh my God. Yeah, I've been there. I've been through that, so I can tell you. I'm just helping you, give you the wisdom here, right? That's just, sometimes it's true. They're right on certain things because they're experienced, right? But just because they're older doesn't make them wiser by default, right? So, yeah, just take it with a grain of salt is what I'm saying, okay? I believe and I know they want the best for me, but the way they talk to me and stuff, it doesn't sit with me. Yeah, they should at least talk to you respectfully, you know what I mean? Yeah, it has already screwed up my way of thinking. That's why I have low self-confidence. Yeah, see, that's the problem. Like, I think a lot of people with similar, upbringings and families have a similar issue. Like, even let me tell you this, you have to challenge that, because if you let it become the way you think, it doesn't matter how successful you become, right? I have friends that are have similar families and they're so successful already in their peers' eyes, but still their family don't think it's enough. They will never think it's enough. That's their mindset, you know what I mean? So don't go down that road with them. And I always question my decisions and I have no confidence behind them. Yeah, that's the thing. Don't let them get to your head, just, we don't have to be completely confident about everything we do, but definitely let yourself be the judge of whether something you did is a good or bad decision. You know what I mean? Like, everyone still makes mistakes. I still make mistakes too. And it's only like, I can only say what is good for me and not good for me. Where did I did right or where did I did wrong, right? Other people, they can give advice and stuff, including myself, right? Like, I can give advice to you, but only you can determine what's good for you and what's not. The thing is that people don't think much about you. If they pass you on subway, they don't give much attention to you. That's very true. So stop paying too much attention on appearances and materialistic stuff. Like, people can get advice and judge, and let me tell you this, it doesn't really matter what you do. People are going to judge you. You know what I mean? People are just so different, you know? So let's look at this year. Let's look at how the world is divided this year, right? Some crazy stuff happened. There are definitely something that's a pretty clear right and wrong, but there are certain things that are kind of in the gray areas, and it's just up to people's opinion, right? So unless you're doing something harmful for yourself or other people where they can tell you, hey, don't do this, but as long as you're happy, do think about your decisions, but it has no downfalls to you, then go. Yeah, I agree. Humans are independent pack animals. All what we do affect things, so our things affect others too, but we still have the option to choose ourselves what to do. Yeah, exactly. So I agree, both of you made some really good point. So I think what's that called, so even though we're human, we want the independence and everything, but we still need the social connection, right? That's why people can't be alone forever. It's just not healthy. One of the worst punishment in the criminal justice system, right, is solitary confinement, meaning for prisoners, they put you in a single person cell and you have no contact with humans at all, right? And that's the worst type of punishment. So when I first learned that before, I was shocked. I was like, why would that be the first, why would that be the worst form of punishment? I would think if someone actually hurt you physically, that's worse. But yeah, apparently being by yourself long term is the worst punishment for criminals. So just keep that in mind. We are social animals and we do need connection with people, especially families. But I think sometimes we need to set boundaries, right? Boundaries is important for us to set with both friends and family and in romantic relationships. I think we talk about this in one of the mental health chat about anger, right? Like, we do want to have good connections, but we also have to learn how to say no sometimes, right? And we can say no without sounding accusatory, without sounding angry, right? Just calmly say, just calmly explain that, yeah, I know that you mean well, right? I know that you want the best for me. I'll think about that. You don't have to tell them what you're going to do. Just tell them, okay, I'll think about that. And then you can decide what to do. You don't have to fight with them. I think a lot of times we get into arguments, right? Even with people on the internet or with family. It's because we want to convince the other person to agree with us. And that's just not going to happen a lot of time. You know what I mean? People really are pretty stubborn when it comes to opinions. So just tell them, okay, I'll think about it. And, you don't have to get into a huge argument and try to convince each other, because it might never happen. Like, you just have to agree to disagree. Lucifer said, a little correction. Is the good thing better than the bad thing from the decisions? Think about that. And every decision has a bad side and a good side. Yeah, weigh the pros and cons, right? You can even pull up a piece of paper and just write down what's the pro about doing this and what's the con about doing that, right? Like, I assume you do that in school too for different classes maybe. So yeah, just try to weigh the benefit and cost and see what's the best decision to make, and don't try not to regret them. You can learn from them, but try not to regret them. Like, every bad decision that you make, you can find the silver lining from it, right? Like, every bad thing that happened to you, even though it might feel really horrible in the moment, but then you might find something really valuable that come out of it, right? You never know what's going to happen next, right? So there's not bad, like 100% bad decision, right? So just try. When I try to explain my side in calm manner, they interrupt me. That's very typical for some older family, right? They think they're older and you don't. They just don't value your opinion, and that's very frustrating. So you don't need to explain to them. You know what I mean? If they don't want to hear your side of it, just don't even bother. Just don't say much. The more you say, the more they're going to argue with you just to prove a point, right? Example, when I said that, thank you, I'll think about it, they'll answer with, Think about it. You always say that. You don't do it. Oh my God, they're so controlling. I don't know, like, why do they get to say that? Or what's your parents' opinion of that? I don't know how old you are, but I assume you're still young. Because why do they get to say what you have to do? You know what I mean? Asira said, well, build rules to them to talk more polite way. Yelling debates don't lead to anywhere. I agree with that. Totally. And if it doesn't work, just don't debate with them. At least I don't want to keep people around me who ain't good for me. I know. It's just kind of, it really is toxic, even though they're good. You know, they have good intention, right? I think I mentioned before too. People can have good intention, but can still hurt people, you know? And if they are toxic to you, just like try to minimize your exposure to them, or don't take them seriously. But anyway, yeah, I understand it's really hard to, when your family is attacking you, even if they're just uncles and aunts, it's really hard to not to take it personally and feel hurt and feel the need to defend and explain yourself, right? But it gets old. Eventually, one day you're going to learn to accept, right? We talked about acceptance before. One day you're just going to accept it is what it is. And thank you for following, Beacon. It is what it is. Just accept that it's gonna be that way, okay? And if it doesn't get better, fine. Like, you can still have a relationship. Sometimes a little bit distant relationship is healthier. But I think a lot of parents or family, they're wired that way to look fault in themselves and their own kids instead of supporting them. So don't let it get to you. I know it's hard. It takes a long time, and but yeah, definitely try to learn to mentally distance yourself from that. Okay, let me try if this Discord thing work. Oh, I'm so sorry about that. I live with my stepmom. True, you know, I think it's best to just have a little contact as much as possible. Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry about that. So I hope your stepmom treat you well. Yeah, I understand. Sometimes we just really need to accept the fact that our parents or family don't have the same value as us, right? Especially when there's an age gap. Different generation really just think very differently. And sometimes we can still like have a good relationship, you know? And just don't talk about the sensitive topic with them. Yeah, my stepmom treats me well and just wants me to succeed. That's very nice. That's not very common, you know, like some of the step parents could be bad, but I'm glad that she treats you well, at least, you know, in whatever I want to do. That's very, very lucky. And yeah, I wish you and her the best. I'm really glad you mentioned that because, you know, if your stepmom is not understanding the situation just like your aunts and uncles, right, then you will get more frustrated. But if they understand how they are and how they can affect you negatively, if she's being understanding, that's really good. You know, at least you can have some support from her, you know, so that's really good. Keep her close and talk to her if nobody else is around. Yes, exactly. Like talk to more, be more open and talk to people that understand you and support you, especially family, because they're the strongest support, right? When push comes to shove, the family that will be there for you and good for you will be there. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, people grow apart all the time, so that's fine, you know. We can still have, we can still have peace and everything without having to share the same value. You know what I mean?